Hello, welcome. Hi, everybody. Letting people in. So, welcome to this second live, to this second video on the art of intention, how to place our intentions. So we had loads of beautiful conversations and nice feedback. Thank you very much. Keep it going, keep it going, keep it coming, so that I can really also cater to your questions and what moves you within that theme. So before we start, I want to include ritual. You all know how passionate I am and how I think actually life is a ritual, and therefore every little ritual actually reminds us. So I also, with this opening of just burning some incense, I want to speak to the power of sacred circle. When we sit together in sacred circle, I am going to, with my beautiful smudge bowl, I will burn a little bit of cedar because we have it here. It's the medicine of the northern direction. It's the medicine of our location. Now, if you're new to this, I will speak about this in this third one, but absolutely in the fourth one, I will speak about more the ritual aspect of this intention setting. So I invite you, we're going to just do a very quick version of that visualization I shared with you, just to connect. If you are on replay, do know that in the spirit world, in the ordinary reality, we are connected across time and space. So if you need to, if you want to, if you feel like it, please just also do burn some incense and allow yourself to come into that sacred space right now. So take a deep breath, close your eyes if you can. Doesn't matter where you are, other than if you're listening in a car, of course. Just stop for a moment. Stop just enough to take a deep breath and let yourself drop into your body with your intention clear to be present in the moment right now, to connect to your roots, and through your roots to the beautiful element of the Earth Mother and the fire of the Earth Mother at the center of the earth, which nourishes our fire, our inner fire in our solar plexus. And connect to the divine goddess, to the presence of the great spirit, of the universal light. Just thinking of the space above and drawing it into your body, into the heart, and let it there nourish that spark of light within you, knowing that that spark of light is your individual light, which in fact is part of the big consciousness, making us all in the total sum of who we are, the divine. So here we are, connected to the earth, connected to spirit, and connected to each other through the presence of our light and the presence of our heart. So, right, day 2 of our intention setting, the art of intention setting. So I hope that what we spoke to in the first was a little enough inspiration for you to start the momentum. I hope that the information you got through the last 2 days, so setting up your intention altar space, and getting your diary either onto your phone, onto your computer, onto printout. I'm someone, I like things to be tangible. So I like to have a tangible version because I love to draw on it and paint on it and stick things on it and all that kind of stuff. So here we are. we've started to settle into this idea. We introduced this intention of being, in fact, an integral part of participating in the big symphony of our creation. That we have a position, we have a light, we have a medicine which we are sharing and which we're bringing forward, and that the intention setting is a part for us to remember and to remind ourselves how to engage in a way that we are aligned to that mission, to that way of how we want to engage and participate. So today, I want to go down to the practical aspect. I want to talk towards the structure of how do we live this moving with our intention, having clarity of our intention, being aligned, and therefore bringing into manifestation what it is that we feel we want to create, or how we want to hold our presence on this planet. And in our lives, in our relationships, and in relationship with ourselves. So, so the structure, how can we bring structure into that, and why would we even need structure? And then what helps us in that? And the word accountability is number one. And so today we're going to be really honest. We're going to be honest with ourselves, with each other, and we're going to talk about how that honesty is essential for us to actually have success, and why is it important to have success in that. So really, let me tell you, I have been practicing this for many decades. Okay, I've been, I guess, some of the teaching, which was the, I'd say, most nourishing or the most grounding in this aspect of really working, following an intention on a daily basis, is the teaching of yoga and how to apply that discipline. And here's another word which is equally liberating as calling reactions. We want to be free. We want to do what we want to do. We want to really bring our personality into it. We don't want to be forced. We don't want to just follow someone else's idea. And I am all for it. I feel that when we come into this practice and when we want to really connect to who we are and bring forward our medicine, the confidence to know what it is that we hold and to bring that forward, regardless of the judgment or the demands from the outside, speaks to the sovereignty, to our personal sovereignty. And so sometimes we get confused with the word discipline. However, it is also, discipline also speaks to the structure which gives us the framework and the support and the foundation in order to be able to then build on that our own individual manifestation of that practice. So, first of all, daily practice. So, and these are bullet points. You can actually, if you can, write them down right now. So, daily practice. It is absolutely essential that whatever it is that we're doing it daily. Yes, there is time for retreats. There is time for weekend activities, or whenever we have free time to do something, to take time to involve ourselves into something. However, if we want to create a good momentum, and if we want to create a sustainable change and sustainable momentum, it is something we have to do every day. And I could now come up with 100 examples where we do that. We do that regularly, okay, in many things which are way less important, in my opinion, than our personal engagement in the creation of our lives. So we all have our routines every day. We take care of our house every day. We take care of our health, of our teeth. Anyway, just brushing teeth, it's just one of those, which we do. We don't even question it, and it's non-negotiable. So this daily practice of a minimum of practice, I call that, is, and for those who know me, who've been sitting with me in circle for a long time, you know that I repeat this all the time. There has to be a minimum practice. And the word practice for me is any form of engagement in you, awareness and being present in your life. And so the daily practice is absolutely essential. So if we talk about daily practice, then we also immediately know this is a life journey. This is not just, okay, I'm going to repaint my room, so I'm just going to empty it, repaint it, and then it's done. You know, it's not a temporary activity. It is a lifelong practice. So we're in for the long haul. And if we are in for the long haul, we also know the natural movement with that. We get super inspired. We get really into it. We get a great intention going. We motivate ourselves in a big way. We have a lot of energy to do it. And then as we go along, well, we started. And if you get to starting, because there are even many people who always are in the idea and the planning stage, but don't actually ever go and say, okay, it is today that I'm starting. So when we started, even when we started and when we are good at it, we then come to the moments where energy level, motivation level, inspiration level, momentum goes down. And then we need something to inspire us. We need to remind ourselves. We need accountability and support and structure in order to keep us going. Okay, so that we do not fall off completely. And I speak to that. I will speak to you today and in all of the other sessions, and I have done it last time, about the rhythms of life which we are already in. Yeah, there are a endless, beautiful, present source of inspiration, which help us to not only be generally inspired, but also to move with our practice in a way that we do not dip too deeply into boredom. And when we are too regular, doing something every day, then we get kind of dull in the mind. You know, we get sort of like we take it for granted. And we also sometimes lack participation and sincerity, if you want. So there is a risk of that. So again, we will look at structures, and particularly the adaptability of that will be the theme for our third session, which is on Tuesday. So we are in for the long haul. We will have ups and downs of inspiration, momentum, stimulation. So this is the nature of the mind, and this comes from the study of yoga. We need to acknowledge that that is what our mind wants. Our mind wants to have constant change, and our mind wants to believe that he's in charge. So doing the same thing, but in different ways, is sort of like tricking. You know, when you have a child who has seen something at once, and by saying no, you will get a confrontation. If you say to the child, no, you can't have it, then they are going to go into a tantrum. because they want to assert authority and get you to give up. The mind is exactly like that. So when we say to the mind, no, this is how we're doing it. When we are confrontational like this, we will get the resistance in our mind. So just like a child, when its attention is on something, when we try to divert their attention, when we say, oh, look, you wanted that, but we're not talking about this. Look over there, how amazing, in the hope that it'll forget what it wanted before. And the mind is the same. So there's all sorts of structures which we fill into our practice in order to stay awake, stay engaged, stay inspired, keep it relevant, get our mind to participate, and be engaged and get the result in the long run. So we speak about that today a little, and particularly in the third video, really of like, troubleshooting, if you want. So when we allow ourselves to get inspired by the rhythms, we do exactly that. And this is what in the Wisdom of the Seasons 1 year course, which I facilitate, this is what we do when we sit in circle. We go with the seasons. We have the structure of the solstices and the equinoxes, of the points between the solstices and equinox, which is this transition time into when we really can tell exactly, okay, now we're going into the next season. So we're using all of these natural presence of the elements in order to help us nourish our engagement in our practice. And then it takes bearing witness. It takes to have a structure of observation, of looking back. And so we will talk about that also, obviously, because we're in this time of the year, when we come to the end of the year where we have that. But this is a structure which we should be doing regularly. And I'll talk about this when I give you the examples to the Wisdom of the Season. But you can have any other structure, of course. You can set that in for yourself. So bearing witness are these moments when we stop, when we remind ourselves what was in our intention, where were we going, and where we double check, am I still there? Am I still on that path, or did I get distracted? Which is such a challenge today. Did I get distracted? Did the condition change? Do I need to adapt my intention or the way I have gone about it? Because new conditions have arisen. So this time of observation is something which we need to get into the structure, to have a regular interval, not too far apart, that we sit and we just look where we're coming from, where we're at, and where we're going to. And then the next thing is positive thinking. And positive thinking is something which I cannot talk about often enough, because it is a re-education of our idea how we should be bringing forward change. Often we are very good in calling out the negatives, what needs to be changed in others, in ourselves, in the world, in everything. This is where often our mind goes to, first of all. And you can test this for yourself. I say to you, tell me 5 things which which you, I want to say a really soft word. 5 things which you think are negative about what it is, your behavior, whatever it is that you're doing, what needs change. Most people can answer relatively quickly. Oh, I don't want to do this. I'm not happy with that. And if I say to you, tell me 5 things which you appreciate of yourself, what you're really good at, what people love you for, how quick can you answer that? And so it speaks to the positive thinking, which means put your energy towards what it is that you want to create, rather than dwelling or concentrating on the things you want to let go of, change, transform. Think of the opposite, which could replace that. Not necessarily the opposite, but let's say, you are someone, or right now you're noticing that you are nagging your family. So this is maybe I do this regularly, although I'm not sure if my family notices. I do it regularly. I need to do it regularly. So there you are, you're noticing all the things, all the shoes which stay, the socks which, the things that don't clean up, and the things that don't do, and so it's very quick and very easy to go like, do this, do that, and do the other, and again this, and again that, and the other. And I've said it so many times. Yet imagine if you then just communicate all the things they're great for, what you appreciate in them. See what they do. See how you're glad that they're in your life and what they bring to your life, how funny they are, and how creative, and how individual, that they have these characters, which are just so amazing. Anyway, I talk about kids and husband. Okay. So the other example, which I'll bring, and I always bring, is when we are talking about changing our nutrition, changing the way we eat, and we want to just clean it up. So if I say, I don't want to eat chocolate, not that I think that would be necessary or ever the case, but let's take that example. Okay, I want to stop eating chocolate for a while. So instead of thinking, don't eat chocolate, don't eat chocolate, don't eat chocolate all day long, I will replace it with something else. I will say, well, before anything, I will have a piece of fruit, or I will have some nuts, or whatever. Okay, so let's say an apple. Before anything else, I will have an apple. And if after the apple I want chocolate, I'll do. Okay, I'm not telling my mind you can't have it. It's like that little child. I am saying, look, beautiful apple. Let's do this first. Because then, obviously, by the time you had the apple and all, A, you forgot about the chocolate, B, you don't want it anymore. That's the concept. And so that goes for everything. And I've had this conversation so many times when people say, I don't want this, I don't want that. This is bothering me, where I said, what it is that you want? And they go like, oh, what do you want to replace it with? Or even never mind replacing. What do you want to bring into your life? What do you want to feel like? What do you want the atmosphere to be like? What do you want your mind to go to? When people say, oh God, all these news and everything is so depressing. And it's like, so let's see, how can you look at something, engage in something which brings joy and which brings hope and which brings inspiration, which brings opportunities. So in that way, for everything, I beg you to put this down somewhere as number 1 practice. In yoga, we call it positive thinking. I guess positive And often it's not to just say, oh, everything is fine. Positive thinking of like, oh, if I just think everything is fine, then everything will be fine. It's not the way, that's not how it works. Okay, positive thinking is not about pretending something exists in order to make it happen, but positive thinking is intentionally putting your energy and your awareness and your activity and your participation and your action into a direction which brings towards you that which you want to create. That's what positive thinking is about, taking one step towards what it is that you want to create. So if you don't want to eat chocolate, then you eat your apple first, or something else which tastes nice. And not to replace chocolate, but because you want to feel better. Okay, maybe at this point, chocolate is no longer a good example. But when we want to let something go, in order to bring in something else, then let us just concentrate on what it is that we want to create. And then the rest falls away by itself. So just think of when you were a child and we were playing with dolls, let's say. I'm old enough that as a girl, I was playing with dolls, not only, but. So can you really say the moment when you stopped playing with dolls? No, because it wasn't like, oh, I'm 10, so, or 12, or whatever. I don't want to play with dolls anymore. I don't want to play with dolls. I don't want to play with dolls. I'm 10. I don't want to play with dolls. No. Other things came into your life. Your attention was drawn to something which was fascinating. And suddenly those dolls, they were like collecting dust. And your mother was saying, okay, we're going to pass them on to your sister, your cousin, your neighbor, whoever. We're going to give them away. We're done with it. And so in the same way, positive thinking, okay? And that is a really important part. When you're placing your intention, yes, in the process of coming to take time to consider why, what is my motivation? When we ask the question, the reflection, what is it that we want to create? Of course, we will contemplate the things which we want to eradicate, which we want to transform, which we want to no longer be doing, which we want to not give time in our lives. And then when we look at a plan of action, how to do that, we will then move from that reflection into what is it that I want to create? How do I want to participate? How do I want to show up? What is it that I want to do? And then we give it attention. Then we give that attention, and the rest, half of it, 90, 80, 90% of it will fall away naturally. And then we can always concentrate on these stubborn little things which become our shadow work, and we work with them, okay, separately. That's a deeper work. But most of the things we want to transform, they will fall away if we concentrate on our intention and by positive thinking, okay, by being aware of what it is that we want to create. So that's our structure in a nutshell. Well, it was a big nutshell because I gave explanation, but daily practice, know that we're there for the long haul. So we need something which keeps inspiring us, reawaken our motivation, reminds ourselves what we're in for, puts in a different spin when our mind is resisting, so that we don't become dull and asleep in the regularity and in the discipline. We want to bear witness to what is going on. So that speaks to the awareness. And then we want to do this in a form of positive thinking to really bring our attention to the parts which we want to create, rather than staying stuck on the things we want to eradicate. That's your foundation. That's your foundation for this practice of intention, the practice of manifesting the life we want, and participating in a good way towards this creation, towards our relationships and our life in general. So I want to spend the second half of today to talk about actionable steps and really clear techniques which you can use in order to have exactly that. So, daily practice. A daily practice, and to be really clear also, to be bearing witness and be present in what it is that we're doing and being realistic in that practice, means that we have to have a way of looking back at it. And that's the next interesting piece. Our mind will tell us all sorts of stories, why we can't do it, why we shouldn't do it, that we're not good enough, that, oh, it's okay if I just do it tomorrow, or if I do it a little different, whatever it is, okay? The excuses are endless. And so that also is true, that often the mind gives us the impression that we're not doing enough, but yet we don't really see all of the things we have done already. Okay, and this is that positive, not positive thinking, but it's like being realistic and truthful within what is happening. So when we come to use this structure, this daily practice, we need something which is what we call a diary. And that's what I sent to you, but it can take many different ways, but we need a way of writing things down to make it visible to us very clearly, not to judge, not to beat us over the head, not to, be like all pressured, but to have a realistic reflection of what we've been doing. And so for that, we have in many practices, it would be called spiritual diary. I called it intention diary, a daily routine diary. And for those who do the courses with me, we have them everywhere. Okay, one nice little page, and we can then make that really super creative. But the idea is that we keep track of what we're doing on a daily basis. So you will write the expectations, the practice down, and then you will tick Monday, yes, Tuesday, yes, Wednesday, maybe not, Thursday, almost, Friday, yes, Sunday, yes, Sunday, or Saturday, whatever. Okay. So, something came to my mind and it slipped my mind right now. Oh yeah. So yeah. I don't know if you're aware of the Weight Watchers. If you've known someone who's done Weight Watchers in order to lose weight, and they do that, the first thing they make you do is like write down what you're eating. They don't ask you to leave anything, to not eat this or not eat that. They said for the first week or 3 days, or I don't know how long. I've not done it, but they will say to you, just write down what it is that you're doing. We do this for budgets, right? We do this for many things, when you're thinking like, what is it that we're doing? If we're looking at a budget, it's like, write down what you need to spend, write down what you have spent, write down, and then let's look at that. Let's add it up, let's position it, and let's see what comes out at the end to get a better vision. And so in our personal spiritual if you want, in our personal development, in the way we turn up on a daily basis, we are asked to do the same thing. And I have practiced this, like I said, for decades. Sometimes better, sometimes not. In my yoga training, I had a wonderful yoga teacher who was really brilliant at this, and I learned so much from him. And he used to say to us in the regular meetings, he used to say, "Okay, who's doing a spiritual diary?" And then he would look at us and he would say, "People, what are you doing? What are you doing here? If you don't have a spiritual diary, what's the point? How can you think you're progressing? How can you think? What's your intention? Why are you even here if you are not just have that very basic way of reflecting back to you what it is?" And in that same way, what I noticed in many times, obviously, it's like any practice you do for a long time. Sometimes I let it slip and then I just come back to it and I do it again. And what I noticed again and again and again for me personally is that I was so hard on myself, because when I would look at the spiritual diary, when I would look at the list, what I had done, I was like, oh, actually, this is good. I'm doing good. I'm already doing it. I came with this intention. Okay, I need to organize myself. I need to step up. I need to be better, always be better. And then when I came to write down what I was doing, it was like, you're doing good. You're doing really well. You're having a very regular practice to an amount of time per day in a normal life, which is actually really good. And so my next step then was, how can I work on the content of what I'm doing? If I'm already doing it and I have the feeling something is missing, what is it that I'm looking for? Just doing more wasn't the point. It wasn't the point of like, add half an hour to your meditation or add something else to your asanas or whatever it is that I was doing. It was like, no, this is like a reasonable amount of work you are doing. So now let's go and refine the quality of what it is that you're doing in order to get a better, stronger, deeper, more meaningful result. And here is one word in my last sentence, which is the next aspect, which is so important. The amount of time I have been practicing in this particular case was like realistic to my daily life. Anything more would have been a lot of effort to fit it in, or I would have to make big sacrifices, maybe unrealistic sacrifices, in order to practice on a daily basis what I wanted to do, while still, having a job, having relationships, and all the other demands of a day. And that's the next thing. And that is so spiritual diary, daily routine, simply writing down, not judging yourself, just reflecting to yourself what it is that you're doing. And if you see after 3 months, 4 weeks, let's say 4 weeks, 1 week, 4 weeks, 2 weeks. Anyway, we come to talk about that in the next session of adaptability. When you see then as it reflects that you are doing it, then like I said in my example, then you can work on either upping it if you think that is necessary, or really going into the quality, refining your practice in order to get a deeper result, a different result, whatever. If you see that you can't do it, if you see that you can do it twice a week and you just don't do it any other day, then the conversation and the reflection has to be done. Okay, what is realistic? Realistic expectations is absolutely essential. And so when you start, please start slowly, gently. The reason why most of our, or so many of our New Year's resolutions are falling short come March, that we are dropping it, that we are not able to maintain it, is because we have utterly unrealistic expectations of what it is that we were doing. You know, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to go to the gym every day a week, and I'm going to always cook beautiful homemade cooking. You know, I could go on with all the things which we think would just solve all of our problems. And we add them up and we are super motivated. There is no question of that, but it's not realistic. It is not a realistic way of continuing, and it might not be necessary also. So again, in my yoga practice, that's another little anecdote of what was so, for me, it was such a teacher. When I started meditating, my yoga teacher was like, okay, they said to us, anyway, there was a yoga structure, you know, you go up in the morning really early, you meditate half an hour, and so he said to me at some point, he said, how is your meditation going? You know, how is your practice going? And I was like, actually, you know, I find it kind of difficult. I'm not so sure. And he said, okay, why? What? And he said, and I was like, yeah, get up. And he's like, when are you meditating? And I said, I'm meditating in the morning. And he burst out laughing. And I said, you know, I think you're not supposed to laugh about me. And I said, and he said, why are you meditating in the morning? And I said, well, because you told us to. He's like, you are not a morning person. You're not a morning person. Your lifestyle is not, you're not a morning person. So as you're establishing something which is completely new to you, and you're trying to create a momentum, and you're trying to create a positive experience, you are now really making this very difficult for you, because not only are you trying to do something new, but now you're making it at a time where everything kind of is against you. So he said, well, start meditating, not half an hour, 15 minutes in the evening. And when you've done that for 3 months, 6 months, then you go into half an hour in the evening. When your half an hour practice is really well established, after another 6 months, then you switch to the morning. And again, you just do 15 minutes. Do you get the idea? It was a super interesting experience for me, and I did it, and it was smooth. There wasn't resistance. My mind was like, okay, my personality went. And now I wouldn't ever meditate at night, or rarely, because I would be too tired. Now for me, the mornings are precious after years and years and years, but getting into it was that. So all of that to be said, realistic expectations, and start small. It is more important that you do 5 minutes every day than doing 2 hours in the weekend and nothing in the week. Spiritual diary, get your diary out. Sit down and think, what is it that I want to create? Tiny little ritual, you know, the visualization I gave you, or any other ritual you have. And then what intention do I want? And we look at this tomorrow also. We go much deeper into exactly what kind of intention which we can do, and how we can do that. So make it clear that what is it that I want to create? And then the next thing is, what is the actionable step I can do? What is realistic? If getting up earlier in the morning is not going to work for you, don't try just because I said that. If in the evening you're falling asleep because you are so tired, then that's not the time. But if you know that you get that you sit in a car for, I don't know how long, 10 minutes to wait for your kids as you're picking them up from somewhere. That might be a good moment. You know, driving in and just driving without any noises. Don't react to the telephones. Don't listen to the radio. Just drive to where you need to go. And as you're sitting there and waiting, then there can be some inspiration maybe coming. Maybe that's one of them. Okay. Right. So realistic goals. Try to create a time. And you know, my mother, there's one of these beautiful things I learned from my mom. My mom, she used to tell me that, you know, she had 4 children and a big household. And when we would be in school, when we would leave for school, she would take her journal, whatever, magazine, her book, whatever, make herself a cup of coffee, sit in the chair or in the sofa, put her feet up and read her magazine and drink her coffee. And she had a time, whatever, 15 minutes, half an hour, I don't know. And she told me once that her mother, my grandmother, was present and said, how can you sit down, do nothing if your house looks like that? And the, you know, breakfast table was still, kitchen was still, nothing had been cleared up. And she said, if I don't do it now, I'll never find the time to do it. So she would give herself that time. She would make it clear which time would be for her, and then she would take it, because there's always something else to do. Same for Christmas. She said, Christmas, my Christmas was when everybody was gone back to school in January. The grandparents had gone back home. The husband was back at work. She's like, otherwise, if I wanted to have a nice Christmas, I would just be frustrated because it wasn't going to happen. So she was at service of her family 100% in Christmas. She didn't even attempt that to be her holiday or whatever. And then when everybody was back in their routine, that was her time. Okay. And in that time, so your foundation for a sustainable, nourishing, transformative practice of intention will be daily practice at a time which suits you, which is good, where you can naturally take the time out. You will need to make that time. It's a commitment. You say, okay, this is important for me. I'm taking that amount of time at that time because that's the best time. That is the time in my routine and the demands of my life, which I can make it without hitting a big block and really getting a lot of resistance and having to, you know, push for. So regular practice, daily spiritual diary, where you can just tick or have a little comment or write a little inspiration or just simply note what it is that you're doing in order for you to be reflected. Make you goals. You can brainstorm and have wild ideas. You should have them. And then break them down to actionable steps and think, what is the most realistic and something I know I can do. Don't make yourself an intention which you know some way you cannot do. That's self-sabotage, because you won't be able to do it. And when you won't be able to do it, you will say all of it is, you know, you throw the baby out with the bathwater and you give up totally. Right. So where are we? We have a couple of minutes left. Let me just see what else I wanted to share with you. I'll just repeat a couple of things which I think are important. Because what I'd like you to do now is get into the practice over the weekend until we see each other again. We have Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Yeah, 3 days. You have 3 practice days, and on Tuesday we see each other again. So for those who are in replay, maybe that's the time you want to give yourself. Okay. If you've decided that you have a week between each session, also fine. You know, whatever it is, that's the kind of time you give yourself. I want you to go get into your practice. Okay. Establish a time. establish your sacred space, whatever it is, whatever you have created. Get out your diary, your intention diary. Make a resolve of what it is that you want to practice. Make it realistic, and then do it. Okay. And any inspiration and big dreams, write them on the back of your intention diary sheet. So to get a good intention, it requires reflection. We need to know our whys. Why are we setting the intention? Why is it important to us? And what emotion will we experience when we work towards achieving it? That's a good kind of questions to ask yourself in the preparation for. So intentions require goals. We are not daydreaming, but we are having an objective and a path to reach in order to get to that. And then it can be a dream. Moving towards our goal and moving towards this idea which we have requires action. Baby steps are the key to success. Realistic goals, realistic, actionable steps for each day. Now, reflection on what it is that we want also includes reviewing our previous experiences, so that we know what works for us, what hasn't, where we're coming from, why this is important to us, to see that in a bigger picture. And so lastly, our intention to serve our full attention. So when we create our intention, we're creating it with our spirit, with our soul, with our higher self, in order to create this environment in which we want to shine our light and share our medicine with our relationships and with our community. So here is what I'd like you to do in the next couple of days. Review all of that, what I said, and think, what are your whys? Place your first intention. What is it that you want to create first of all? And it could be just simply making the time. For you, your first intention could be really, okay, I want to make time, I want to make an altar, and I want to get the structure into place. So making time to have this reflection, making time to communicate with the sacred space of my intention, to write this intention down. Presence, that could be a word, being present. Have I been present in that space for myself yet today? This is all new to you. If you haven't ever done this, that would be a really beautiful way of starting. Take stock of the last, for those who are a little bit more into it already for a while, and for those who work with me on the seasons journey, it's time to start taking stock of the last year. Okay, reread some of your journals, and to see where you're coming from, what was your intention in the beginning of this year or in the last period, and how are you aligning with that, and how would that nourish your intention for the future? And think, how do you want to feel, and how you want to bring forward, in what do you want to bring forward into manifestation? Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. All right. For those who are here live, please stay live on. We're going to have a little conversation. If you here with this beautiful circle in this sacred space with in this conversation in replay, please, all your questions, send them to me. I'll be happy to address them on Tuesday and on Friday next week, to keep motivating and supporting and inspiring the momentum of your journey into a sustainable, long-term practice of intention. I wish you a beautiful weekend, a beautiful day today. And I look very much forward to see you in the next life.